Hey guys, welcome back to Game On. This is the second episode of 2020. I'm Justin.
And I'm Matt.
And we're here to talk about some pretty interesting stuff. We got some stuff on games and things that we're looking forward to.
This episode is really going to be about supporting the things that you love, voting with your wallet. And why that's important is because, well, let's face it, the gaming community, the gaming industry is not rolling in dough, all right? People don't get rich on role-playing games. They do it because they love it, and they do it because we love it, and they want to serve this community. And it's really important that you support companies that are giving you the material that you love. That's particularly on our minds this month because we got some bad news that the local gaming store where Justin and I met, and I guess you would say that indirectly is responsible for this podcast even existing in the first place, a little place called Gamers Gambit, announced that they're closing their doors coming up later this month. And that's a real bummer for us personally because, you know, that's been a big part of our gaming experience and our social lives over the last few years. And it's run by some good people, and it's had some great products that we've spent probably too much money on, but clearly not enough to help them survive the rough economics of running a small special interest store in the gaming community.
Yeah.
So we don't want that to happen to you if you have a local gaming store that is important to you as this one was to us. Just take this as a cautionary tale and just understand that, you know, a store like that, it's hard to make ends meet and it's hard to keep it going. Most gaming stores close, quite frankly. It's like restaurants. It's bad economics. Most of the ones that open end up going out of business. So if you love a place, you know, patronize it. Spend some money there. Don't necessarily buy everything on Amazon just to save a few bucks.
Yeah.
You know, look, we all are conscious of spending dollars, but you know, think of how much more you get than just a product from a store like that. You know, they provided gaming space. I don't know how many hundreds of hours thousands of hours we must have spent in the back of that store at the tables playing with these games. You know, and we won't have that space anymore once the store closes. And so it's important to think about it in terms of you're not just purchasing a book or a set of dice or a deck of cards or whatever the product is that you're purchasing from your local gaming store. You're also keeping the culture of gaming alive in your community and creating a meeting space to meet new gamers and maybe play there and just, you know, keep the whole thing rolling. And so it's important. It's important to help those folks support the industry and support a business that supports us. So this is your call to action to go spend a few bucks, even if it costs you, you know, a little bit more to buy a book from a brick and mortar gaming store than it would to order it online. It's worth it. Just do it from time to time. You don't have to spend everything. You don't have to buy everything from your local store, but try and buy things that you can from your local place. And but that's not the only place that you can support. The other thing that we're going to talk about, and I'm gonna let Justin take the ball on this one, is online startups, Kickstarters, things like that, funding ideas for products that somebody doesn't have a business or a big financial backing for something, but they have a great idea and they want to get it out in the gaming world. So they reach out to crowdfund a project. And so Justin's got a few ones that he found on Kickstarter that are pretty cool.
Yep.
And he's excited about, and he's actually spent some of his own money on it. So
Yeah. I first want to preface this with saying that I'd never perused Kickstarter before.
Oh, you're going to admit that.
I am.
Okay.
I'm going to admit that. Say that I am both happy and sad that I didn't, because there are so many awesome things on there that I wish I had the money to spend all my money on to help. Because there are a lot of cool things.
Sucker.
That's how they get me. But I'm gonna throw out 3 that I find really interesting. I'm thinking at least 2 of these that you'll really like. One of them, we'll see. The setting of it is a little bit interesting, but it's more geared towards the way I like things.
All right,
but,
man, sell it to me.
Yeah, so let's go with, we're going to do a top 3, and I'm going to start with 3. So, my first war game that I played that wasn't Warhammer 40K was a game called The Battle of Guilford Courthouse by GDW. I don't know if you've ever played it.
I haven't played that one, but I played plenty of GDW stuff back in the day.
So
Twilight 2000 was it?
Yes, I played Twilight as well. And then I think we've mentioned it before, Harpoon, I like.
Dark Conspiracy, I liked.
I've never played that one, but I'll have to look into that. There's a game called Chancellorsville 1863. It's by a company called Old School War Games. It's similar in essence to the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, in the sense that it is a 2-person war game. There is an exception, though. It also has a really interesting solitaire component, so that it has you play with a deck and against a deck. So you can have 2 players play, or you can play against the game itself. And it's a really interesting game because it's designed to kind of help people get into war games, because it's touted as having a 1-hour playtime for a war game, which is like crazy.
It's like the 7-Day War in Real Wars. It's like it's over before anybody really knew it was happening.
Yeah, and this game, as of this recording, it's got about 13 days left to go. But luckily, they've already met their regular goal. So their goal was 2,500, and they got 14,000. So they're trying to hit some stretch goals right now. But what's really cool about the game is that, one, in case I wanted to play it, I could play it by myself. Though I still think that this would be a kind of game that I want to play with 2 people.
Well, let me ask you, is it just 2 people, or can you expand it out to play like teams? Can you have like 2 teams so you can involve more people? So right now, no. It looks like it's strictly a head versus head game. The game designer, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. He's done a whole bunch of war games, and I think with some of their stretch goals, they're looking to add like additions so that you could have. So instead of, I guess in theory, if you have more than one general that you're controlling, someone else can control it. But what's really awesome about this is that there's also, you kind of get 2 cool Civil War themed GM screens, so that you can do a whole lot of secret movements and secret tactics without the other person seeing. So you need a GM screen for a card deck game?
Well, it's played on a board, and then there's parts of the, like, let's say that your scouts haven't found this part of the battlefield yet, but your other player controls it. They're behind a GM screen so that they don't see what you're doing back there.
Okay. So it's the deck is a component, but the game isn't a deck-based game.
No, it's not like a deck-building game. It uses dice and cards to help like build a hand to play.
Okay.
But I think Heroes Over Normandy is another game that does something like that. But I've never actually played a game like that, so that's why it was interesting to me, because it was tactical, but there's some randomness to it. So I don't know, I thought it was really interesting. Also, I just like the idea of a Civil War game. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a very specific topic, obviously.
It's a very specific topic.
And so people can be into it or not into it.
Yeah.
But structurally, it sounds like an interesting kind of all-encompassing game in terms of how the mechanics of it. So
yeah, and it's crazy how they were able to make. They advertise that if you play against the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it works because they didn't really describe exactly how it worked, but there's ways for the deck to secretly move, even though you're just there controlling everything.
So it would be like randomized movements, I would think. But
yeah, something. It would have to be something like that. But it's definitely something I'm going to have to look into more, just because it's really awesome.
And what kind of buy-in is it for the Kickstarter? Like, were there tiers?
Yeah, there were tiers.
Roughly, how much would it take for people to get involved? If your description sold them on it and they wanted to go on there and find it and support it and buy in, what it would cost them?
Well, that is an answer that I don't have for you right off the top of my head. However, in the description and the pinned comment, we'll have links to all these so they can go look for themselves.
So by the time the finished version of this podcast makes it onto YouTube, there will be a screen that shows you how much it costs.
Yes, exactly. Because I don't
look below this screen right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't see what all the tiers were. I don't have them all written down.
All good.
Oh, wow.
We'll have it by the time that they read it or listen to this, so we're good.
They're probably looking at screen captures of this right now.
Yep. All right, so what's number 2?
Number 2 is an even more hyper-focused game. It's called Visions of Rainbows, The Race for Champion Stripes. I was a cyclist in college, and this is a Grand Tour cycling simulation board game.
Are you no longer a cyclist? Did you forget how to ride?
Yes. No, how about this? I am no longer riding with a team, and I more or less now just ride by myself.
Okay. You're a pleasure rider as opposed to a competitive rider.
Yes.
But this game is about competitive cycling.
It's about competitive cycling, and it's really interesting. So it's made by a guy named Jason McDowell. He's not a guy who's like, he's not really a known board game publisher.
Well, he is now because we're hyping him on our show.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Jason.
He's a little under halfway of his goal. He's got 5,000 out of 17,000, so that's a little bit less than halfway, but about a third.
Also known as a third of the way.
Oh yeah, math wasn't my strong suit. No, it's a game that's going to come with a whole bunch of customizable terrain. So it's like a literal board that has like roads on it, and you can customize it however you want. And then you can declare it as like a flat stage or a mountain stage. And it's basically, it uses a whole bunch of little miniature bikes to represent the minis, and you're driving them on the road. And it's for 3 to 7 players. There's that many teams. With
well, it's easier to draft if you got a few bikes ahead of you.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that there's mechanics for drafting. There's mechanics for lead attacking. There's chase attacking. It's got different kinds of riders. It's got the well-rounded rider, the mountain rider, and the sprinter, as well as 3 domestiques. And it's simulating fatigue. It's got feed zones in it, all through random events through cards, as well as things that you can do to other players. But they suggest 3 to 7.
Put a stick in their spokes?
There is, no, not to that extent, but there is breakdowns. There are mechanic cars that you can drop back to and get fixed, and then have to get back as fast as you can. It's really strategic because you have to pull some of your. Do you want to pull some of your domestiques back to help bring someone back into the group?
To someone who knows how to ride a bike, but that's the extent of it. What the hell is a domestique?
It
sounds like a French maid.
They are. they're the guys who do a lot of the work for a cycling team, but they don't get a lot of the glory. So they're not the guys that are going to be winning any stages, but they're the guys who are like riding in front to break the wind, so that the people who are, going to win the stage can conserve energy. They're basically glorified bump drafters.
Gotcha. But domestique sounds cooler than windbreaker.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I like the idea of a cycling board game, and the fact that you can create alliances, because even in professional cycling, the teams work together for a lot of the races. It's not until the last couple standings that they worry about attacking each other. So I like the idea. I don't know if you ever played Formula D, but when we were lucky enough to have a Formula One racing simulator, and now I'm happy that we have a cycling one.
I actually had a Indy 500 board game when I was a little kid. I've been a auto racing enthusiast fan in my outside of the gaming world forever. And even as a little kid, I was obsessed with auto racing, and I was probably 10 years old. And this game was way more sophisticated than I was ready for when I first got it. But same idea. It's a little bit more formulaic in the sense of, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is kind of a known quantity in terms of a track. It's a square oval, and you go around it 200 times. So, it's the same. There's no variation in the track to speak of. It gets a little, I think it had conditions, like you get slick spots and stuff, if oil was put down on the track, things like that. But in terms of the strategy and the mechanics of the game, it sounds very similar, or this game sounds very similar to what I remember from that auto racing game, where you drafting and teams kind of working together. And do you lay back? Do you want to lead laps? You have to come in and do pit stops. You got to change tires. You got to get gas. So there's the element in terms of the mechanics and the timing and the strategy too. So I don't want to hijack the conversation to talk about that game.
Cool.
But I definitely understand the appeal of what you're talking about with this cycling game. What's it called again?
It's called Visions of Rainbows.
Visions of Rainbows.
It's the race for
makes
champion stripes.
No sense, the name of that game. I'm sorry. Everything about this game sounds cool to me except the name I don't get. But
okay.
Other than that, but the how the game operates and the elements that it's trying to incorporate, the realism or approximating the realism of how that sport works, sounds really cool. I'd be interested to see how it plays.
Your cycling team wants a Vision of Rainbows because you want the polka dot jersey, the yellow jersey, the white jersey, and the green jersey. So it's a cycling thing. That's why it's called Visions of Rainbows. But to a random person pulling it off the shelf, they'd be like, "This sounds like a weird name for this kind of game." And I sympathize with you.
I am that person who is going like, wait.
I had to think about it for a second when they called it that. I was like, wait. Oh, right. But the third, that would be number two. So number one, I think, is something that.
So you're counting up to the coolest one.
Yes.
Okay.
This one is called Trophy. By Gauntlet Gaming. It is a dice pool RPG based on hunting for treasure and going into the scariest places that you can imagine and trying to come out with the coolest treasure you can.
Okay. So kind of the idea behind most modules for most games.
Yes. So a couple things about this one. It had a $10,000 goal. It is now at $85,000.
So somebody else thought it was a good idea.
Yep. The reason why I like this game, so it's 3 games in one. So basically getting this game, you get 3 different books. You get, yeah.
That's a good purchase by the pound, folks.
Yes. It's got a system or a game setting called Trophy Dark, one called Trophy Loom, and one called Trophy Gold. Trophy Dark is...
So kind of visions of rainbows, really.
Yeah, exactly. Trophy Dark is, think of... When I see the photos of it, first of all, the artwork is amazing.
It's a good start.
It's very much like a Brothers Grimm kind of stuff. So the way that they describe it is that you're an explorer going on an incursion into a deep, dark wood that doesn't want you in it, and you hope that you die because you're going mad, and it's just crazy. It's designed for one-shot games. And they also suggest that it's also a really good side dream sequence kind of game.
So you don't actually have to kill the players. If it's in a dream,
yeah,
they can wake up at the end.
Yes, exactly. I see it as more of a Halloween kind of game, as a one-shot Halloween kind of thing, because it's just awesome. They're gonna see the artwork on the screen right now. It's so freaking awesome. But what's really cool about it is that there's also Trophy Gold, which is designed to be more of a real life RPG. So it's real life RPG. But I guess what I mean by that is it's more of a campaign than it is one shots. The adventures are called incursions, which I like the idea of, and it allows for, in case you have a gaming group that isn't completely stable, hopping in and out is something that seems a little bit more doable in this game.
Okay, so you can have a fluid party where you don't have the same people at every episode, and it doesn't disrupt the continuity of the game.
Yeah. The world that this takes place in is a completely different world. Honestly, all I know about the name of the world is it's the trophy world. I'm sure that there's a real name for the world, but
which may or may not also appear on the screen right now as you're listening to this.
Yeah, but it's definitely. What's really cool about it is we've talked about dice pool games a lot, and their positives. And well, obviously some of their negatives, but what's also really cool about this game is that it's all the monsters that you find are randomly generated on the spot, so that no game is the same. So they advertise how you can make, I think it was, you get two dice to roll for an adjective, 1 dice to roll for a form, and then 2 dice to roll for what it's doing. And it allows for some, and you'll see in the artwork, some really cool things like bears that are half made out of stone, devouring, children.
Okay, folks, for those of you who don't think that sounds cool, there are other slightly more socially acceptable things as well.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this. So the encounters are randomly generated by design. Although I would think that someone running this game could supersede that by cherry-picking opponents in the game if they wanted something to follow a specific narrative. You could always just override the randomness and say, no, you're gonna face this XYZ monster.
You definitely
stone bears, which, as silly as a stone bear sounds, it's still less dumb than an owl bear.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get hate mail for that. But owl bears are dumb. They're just dumb. So by the incursion, so you're operating from some sort of base or town or something, and then you kind of dip in, find your adventure, go for your trophy, and then dip out again. Dice pools, we've talked about some of the mechanics of those. How much do you know about how the mechanics of this work? I mean, you said that you're discovering this stuff on Kickstarter. how have you noticed how these companies do or don't advertise about the game structurally?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you learn from the Kickstarter?
So this one I've learned the most amount from.
Which is how come they got your money?
Yeah, well, yeah. They also have like a quick start guide already printed out there, so you can kind of just see what it's like. They have character sheets. They can see how the game works.
To those of you thinking about doing a Kickstarter,
Yeah.
giving people free stuff to lure them in, good business strategy.
That's how it worked for me. It looks to be like you would roll up to 4 dice, and then the GM would have up to 4 dice against you, and then it's obviously taking the net of who wins on different skills. And Trophy Gold had a very Indiana Jones kind of style feel to it.
That's a good genre to draw from.
Yeah. They don't consider you like a doomed character, but they said that you're kind of desperate, so you might have to pay off debts or something. There's a reason why you're going out there. Maybe it's just fortune and fame, but there's like a built-in mechanic to give you kind of a reason to have a backstory for your character.
And that's good to jumpstart parties, gaming parties, player parties that are lacking focus.
Yes.
Which sometimes happens, especially if you're assembling a party of players randomly at a con or in some other environment where the players maybe don't know each other, so it's harder to get them to sort of all operate on the same page. Having a mechanic built into the game that says, okay, this is why you all are doing the same thing at the same time and should work together.
Yes. And the other book that comes with it is something called Trophy Loom. Trophy Loom is basically just a campaign guide, and it literally says any game system you can just plop right onto it. And play with. So
interesting.
Yeah. They don't have a whole lot of that online to look at.
Well, no, I wouldn't think so. That would be a good way to not get people to buy it.
Yeah. But I think what's cool is that it comes like has like some sort of textured cover to it, kind of like I'm not gonna say felt covered, but it's like got a nice cover. It's got built-in bookmarks, because I think more game books need to have a bookmark built into them.
I agree. That looks. Those of you who are contemplating starting your own gaming publishing company, built-in bookmark, awfully classy.
Yeah, and just the way that the 3 books kind of line up, it just looks nice.
Yeah.
So. But they see it now, so they know what I'm talking about.
They can tell whether they agree with you.
Yes.
Whereas I just have to take your word for it, because here we are sitting talking about this, and I have no visuals in front of me whatsoever.
Sorry.
So I'm just going to pretend like I agree with you?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Well, actually, I will say that of the 3 that you mentioned to me, the cycling one, I have the most vivid sort of concept of. Like, I get that game. From what you've told me, I don't have many questions, right? That seems self-contained. It is a very focused subject matter, very specific, so it's easier to kind of wrap your head around it. That one I totally get from you just giving me the elevator pitch on it, right?
Yeah.
The trophy one, I have the least clear concept of what it's about, but it seems to have the most potential for a variety of games and be a sustaining thing that a lot of people with a lot of different interests would potentially have fun with. With a cycling game, let's be honest, and I don't think this is a criticism of the game design, if you're not interested in cycling, probably that game's not going to do much for you.
No.
But regardless of what type of gaming environment, if you're into RPGs at all, it sounds to me like the trophy world setup has the potential to be a game you would like.
Yeah.
And you could tailor it to your party to give them the kind of game that they want. You want the horror, bleak, Call of Cthulhu-esque, you're all going to die kind of thing. Well, that's the dark one, right? And then if you want the swashbuckling, high adventure, big cinematic sweeping action sequences and danger and all that. Well, that's the gold. That's, like you said, Indiana Jones, perfect. Yeah, and the Loom one, that just kind of gives you story concepts that you can either use with their system or use elsewhere.
Yep.
And I mean, that's something that I have certainly done with other source books from other games, is saying, man, I love the texture and the backstory and the character development on all of these, this particular source book, but the system sucks. So I'm going to go use another system from another game and, you know, slap the mythos from a module or a source book on top of another system and just adapt them.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you don't even have to do that with this. It's already built to be able to do that. So,
yeah.
And you said the Kickstarter gives you all 3 books?
Yeah, it looks like it. I think what's happening is well, I think they already made the stretch goal, so yes.
Okay. Cool.
It looks like you just get all 3 plus a whole bunch of cool artwork and stuff with it. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of those it's one of those things where you get some extra goodies with it, and I don't know. That's for that. I like that idea.
Well, I'm a cheap bastard, so I love extra goodies with pretty much any purchase.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm focusing a lot on trophy, but I called it number 1 for a reason.
It seems like the most well-developed game of the 3 that you talked about. It really does sound like.
I saw one picture, and I was like, I could write a whole adventure on that one picture. That's the kind of like stuff that's going on.
But don't write your adventure on the picture, because that would mess up the art.
Yeah, okay. I won't do that.
Okay, and on that dumb joke.
I liked it.
Okay, cool. So just to circle back around, Kickstarter, great way to fund up-and-coming companies, mainly up-and-coming companies that are producing great content, and which gets you some pretty good deals sometimes, and it definitely gets support out to these companies who are ambitious enough to be creating new, interesting content for the gaming world, which means more people in it, more people writing material, producing material, which strengthens the industry, which means everybody, you know, continues to produce more product, and we all
it's a win-win.
Do better with it because we have more choices. And I mean, and that's great, and that's leveraging Kickstarter and online and helping to promote the hobby and the industry. But don't forget your local place too. Like I said at the beginning of this thing, your local gaming store, they're your friends, they're kindred spirits, and they're trying to make a living and make the gaming experience better. So if you appreciate that at all, you know, throw them a few bucks, buy some stuff there.
Definitely.
You can never have too many dice, and they always sell awesome dice at the gaming store. So just, you know, go buy some stuff.
And I think there's one other thing I'd like to say is that if there's anybody on here that has a good Kickstarter they'd like us to take a look at, let us know.
Yes.
Because I'll gladly take a look at a cool Kickstarter and maybe back if I like it.
I'm almost as gladly look at the Kickstarter. Here's the thing. If you send us a great idea for a Kickstarter, it means less work for us. Because you sent it to us, we don't have to go and find it. Which means we already like you better.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, seriously, folks, if you know, or even if it's not yours, even if you found something cool and you think it deserves more support, throw it our way. Look, if you sell us on it, you know, if you show us something cool that we agree with you, we can you know, promote it with the people who listen to us, because the legions of people who are listening and watching this, you know, because ultimately a Kickstarter succeeds when more people back it.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
It's not a competitive thing where you're in on the Kickstarter and it's better, you know, it's not like the lottery. right?
Yeah.
You know, your odds don't go up if fewer people play. So you want more people to participate and support the things that you like, because that company will succeed, and they'll produce more content, and ultimately you'll have more stuff available to you. So yeah, tell us, educate us on what's cool out there in the world.
Please
and
do.
not just other Kickstarter, but other sorts of crowdfunding stuff, other platforms, whatever. Just let us know.
Exactly. I think next time we'll have some more interesting stuff to talk about. You'll probably see our beautiful mugs.
Oh yeah, we'll do one in front of the camera, which we should probably keep shorter.
Yes.
Yeah, no, seriously though, thanks for sticking with us and listening to these and enjoying and learning some stuff and maybe telling us some stuff too. But until next time, I think we've covered it, yeah?
I think we have.
Nice.
So don't forget to stay tuned. We thank you for listening to us, and don't forget to game on. I'm Justin.
And I'm Matt. See you next time.
See you next time.
Or actually, you'll see us next time, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right.
Game on.